Okay, very good. Welcome everybody listening live in the Zoom room or on Facebook or afterwards on Facebook or on YouTube. My name is Cole Padilla. I'm your humble host of these unofficial LACDP Friday night forums. LACDP standing for the Los Angeles County Democratic Party. Biggest county party I understand in the country, bigger than 40 some states. What the Democratic Party here in LA says and does matters. And uh, I, along with many other folks, are concerned with many of the things that LACDP is saying and doing um, in meetings and outside of meetings. And these forums are an opportunity for interested folks, concerned folks to come together and discuss and debate these things in a free forum, led by me, organized by me. But welcome to all. They are welcome. Everybody is welcome. LACDP meetings, unfortunately, are live streamed, but they are not, or at least they're recorded. The recording of the live stream is not kept up afterwards. It's immediately taken down. The chat box is not savable. Here tonight, you will see, those of you in the room, that the chat box is savable. So be forewarned that somebody could, share what you type in the chat. But that is, a unique part of the meeting, and I guess we can dive right in here because that was the first point of order I raised at the last meeting. What we do, though, I should note, at these Friday night forums, right, is we tend to review the previous meeting and then preview the next meeting, and in doing so, discuss and debate all these issues that come up regarding related to LACDP, LA County Democratic Party here in LA. And so, as you can see, let's see, can we? Oh, make sure we can save the chat, Dennis. I'm looking here. Participant can chat with everyone publicly and directly. Yes. Okay. Is the chat savable now, Dennis?
The chat is always
Oh,
savable.
it is savable. Yeah. Right. Test. Test. Yes, of course. Yes, it is. Okay, very good. And so, yeah, feel free to share this recording on Facebook, YouTube, elsewhere. Unlike the LA County Democratic Party, we don't have secrets here. We don't have anything to hide, and we openly and freely discuss things. Um, I also do not keep everyone on force mute like LACDP does. You can interject and interrupt if you need to. Um, that's okay. You can raise your hand. There's the raised hand feature, and unlike Chair Mark Gonzalez, I'll actually call on you. I also have a helpful co-host, Denis Recendez, our technical support person, IT guy, an elected uh, member of the LA County Democratic Party from Assembly District 48, elected last year along with me. I was elected in Assembly District 49, which is the Western San Gabriel Valley. Dennis from the Eastern San Gabriel Valley. And there's 7, right, elected from each of the assembly districts here in LA County. And so he has been a faithful servant to our cause here, helping with the IT Zoom stuff. And uh, and so, yeah, raise your hand if you have something to say, or you can just interject. Um, and Yeah, but I treat you, like I'd like to be treated. Good old golden rule, right? Um, and I will not condescend to you, berate you. I'll laugh with you, but not laugh at you. At least I don't anticipate laughing at anyone. I don't know if some troll might come in here, but um, and or a Zoom bomber. We haven't been Zoom bombed, and hopefully we don't get Zoom bombed. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, Mark Gonzalez treats us like his children, that many of whom he does not like at these LACDP meetings. And and I've noticed it especially with senior citizens. That was the first um, time that the Sergeant at Arms messaged me privately, and I'll show that on screen shortly. It was in response to the way Mark Gonzalez was talking to Linda Perez, who was having problems voting. I'm noticing a pattern here by Mark Gonzalez towards a variety of groups of people in LACDP, newcomers, newer members, senior citizens. Linda has gotten the condescension. I put in my email announcing tonight's meeting, as I've done before. Often Mark Gonzalez, in his tone and substance, along with Drexel Hurd, the LACDP executive director, makes people feel like they're inexperienced idiots or old dunderheads. Those are the two terms that I used. And I use that old dunderhead term because I have noticed his tone often changes with senior citizens, treating them like they're inexperienced idiots or old dunderheads. And I objected to the way he was speaking to Linda Perez when she was having problems voting. Subsequently, shortly thereafter, Drexel Hurd, the LACDP executive director, very rudely condescended to LA City Council member Paul Koretz, who may be a senior citizen now. I don't know his exact age. He's certainly been in LA politics a long time, was having also trouble voting for the endorsements at the last meeting. And Drexel informed him, well, sorry, you're having a problem. 227 other people didn't have a problem. And we'll roll that tape shortly. But I don't appreciate that. I don't like that. That condescension towards senior citizens or anyone else. It's very rude. It's very off-putting. And then when I and others speak out against that, we're the ones who are told we're being disrespectful, as you'll see in a private message I received from the Sergeant at Arms. Standing up for respectfulness is not disrespectful. And so, yeah. Okay, Dennis is hearing background noise. Okay, but I'm going to mute everyone, but you can unmute as needed. Right. Okay, thank you, Dennis. Yes, I'm not going to keep you all on force mute, as I was saying. What else as far as some housekeeping here? Yeah, we don't have formal motions or anything, as I say, but you always feel free to ask a question. Yeah, I will not bully or abuse you, abuse my power as host. Nor will I thrust my finger in the Zoom camera at you, as Mark Gonzalez does, or bare my fangs as he does, threaten you, ignore you, etc. His behavior, has been bad and remains bad, and resulted in him removing me from the last meeting at the request or desire of the Sergeant at Arms. So this removal of me at this last meeting was actually my second. This time, I was openly and brazenly removed. However, the month prior, I was secretly and quietly removed, along with two other people, also outspoken activists, Melissa Michelson, the president of the Feel the Burn Democratic Club in LA, and her alternate. Within minutes of each other, we were, as we discussed at last month's Friday Night Forum, we were quietly and secretly removed. And when we protested, we were told, and others protested, this is back in February, we were told publicly and privately in the chat box of that meeting, in private messages, that we were being conspiracy theorists for claiming that we were intentionally removed, even though we saw the on-screen prompt, even though I showed the video at the last meeting of my screen recording of the meeting, where all of a sudden you see on my screen recording, I get this prompt saying, you have been removed from the meeting. And then when I subsequently tried to get back in, I couldn't. It said, you've been removed from this meeting and not allowed to return. The way that Zoom works, right, is that if you are removed from a meeting, the assumption often is that you're a Zoom bomber, right? And so the settings are such that I think the default is you can't come back in, right? If you've been removed. More evidence. It was very intentional what was done, but it was spun by the LACDP powers that be as accidental or technical glitches. And then I guess they just threw away the pretense at the March meeting. They didn't have to come up with any cover story, and they just openly and brazenly removed me. And we will review that and how sudden and strange and shocking it was about 2/3 of the way into the meeting when the Sergeant at Arms just suddenly announces, I want to remove Cole Padilla. Over an hour had passed since my last private message with her, and they were, pointed private messages, but they were, respectful. So she obviously didn't think so, but an hour later is when I got the boot. According to her, as you'll hear later tonight, because she very inartfully phrased her statement, a very brief statement about why she was removing me, that she had received multiple complaints of disrespect from other members. Again, no detail, no nothing. I was not exchanging private messages with other folks, just for the record. Sometimes defenders, attack dogs, if you will, of Mark Gonzalez will send me private messages telling me to shut up. But I don't respond. I may have responded once or twice over the last year. But I actually don't think I have. I just ignore them. And if I did respond ever, I know I didn't respond this last meeting. I don't stoop down to their level. I state what I state in meetings publicly when I speak, or publicly in the chat box for all to see and read and hear. So anyway, we were going to start. Let's go to the recording of the meeting. I'm going to share the screen here. Let me get this set up. Okay, let's make sure I get the right recording. Yes, I think this is the right recording. And we'll dive right into the last meeting so you can see what was going on. Okay, let me bring this up. Just give me a moment here. Okay, and let me make sure this is.
Can we spotlight her for a second?
Okay, you can hear Mark in the background already. Mark Gonzalez, that is, the chair of LACDP. Yeah, okay, this is the right one. Okay, so let me share the screen here. Let's go over to the share screen function. Okay, where's my share screen? Share screen.
Remember when you share the video that you want to share the sound as well, which is an option in the lower left corner.
Oh, share sound. Oh, okay. It also says optimize for video clip now. I hadn't noticed that before. I guess I'll click that, Dennis.
Yep.
Okay, interesting. Oh no, to share your computer audio, please install the Zoom audio device. Restart your audio sharing application. What?
Not sure what that's about.
What's that? Have to install to continue. It's your audio sharing application. Let's see. Well, let me see if this. Are you sure I have to do this? Because I haven't done that.
Try without, but may not come through. Tell you what.
Wait.
Unshare and do it the way you normally do.
Let's see. Okay. What's going on here? Okay, am I screen sharing right now? Yeah. Right?
You are.
I am.
She's been our sergeant at
You
arms
hear
for a
Gonzalez?
few years, and she served with our dear friend Barbara Torres and Anna Soto. Our sergeant at arms has.
Can people hear what was he was saying? Or is the audio not good?
It's
It's
kind of
just
low,
soft.
but we can hear it.
Yeah, I thought that's what I thought too. Let's see.
You who have had the opportunity to be with us in person is the one who keeps order on the floor during the meetings. I want to remind everyone that the chat serves as our virtual floor, so the same rules apply, and Shannon will be monitoring the chat going forward as she would in person.
Wow.
Please use the chat as you would in person and on the floor. Personal conversations, you can use the direct messaging function to a specific person to make sure our members can stay focused on the business of the day. Any discussion in the main chat should be limited. As we continue to work within the virtual space, we recognize that there are always technical challenges, mics and videos not working, internet issues, connectivity, and more. And there's no shortage of that here or in any entity who has been dealing with virtual meetings. The digital divide is real. In consultation with staff and leadership going forward during our virtual meetings, the following people will serve as co-host options: the chair, sergeant at arms, credentials co-chairs, and LACDP staff. The only members who will have the ability to remove a member who is disruptive will be the sergeant at arms. We will, as we do in-person meetings, alert that disruptive member and the body ahead of time before the member is removed. So, with that, I'd like to take us over to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Could everyone hear what he said there?
Yeah.
Even though it was a
Yeah.
little low? Okay. So, multiple violations there of Robert's Rules of Order that he just announced, right? The Sergeant at Arms does not have the power to remove a member. The chair has the power to remove a non-member, according to Robert's Rules of Order, unilaterally, but not a member, right? And if a member is removed, you have to go through a formal process under Robert's Rules and take a vote to remove a member, and there's debate and discussion. And none of that was had when I was removed later in the meeting. He also announced, and that was my first point of order, as you'll see shortly, that he claims that the chat box is the floor.
That's what
It's
he
not
said.
it's not the floor, right? If it were the floor, it would be a typed meeting and you wouldn't be able to see Mark Gonzalez. There wouldn't be any audio, right? The floor is the screen. The floor is who's on camera, right? And who's talking verbally, orally. That's the floor. The chat box is the chat box. That's a written place for chatting, right? And all manner of chatting goes on there. The floor is where you make motions, right? Now it's the only thing that they have said the last year, that the chat box is like a secondary option for people to make a motion, right? Or to raise their hand. You've got the Zoom raised hand feature. You've got the well, yeah, I guess it's really the Zoom raised hand feature is the way that you get the attention under LACDP's rules of the chair, who then is supposed to call on you, right? But who often doesn't, especially if he doesn't like you. He doesn't call on you. And so what people will do is say point of order or point of information or parliamentary inquiry, whatever in the chat box, in addition to raising their hand to get his attention, to get the executive director's attention. And usually we're still ignored, right? If they don't like you, they don't call on you. But that's really the only other floor function of the chat box. Other than that, the chat box is for chatting. That's what it is designed for. That's what it's constructed for. That is what is used for and has been used for in LACDP meetings and any meetings, right? It's not the floor. You know, one of the things that I've likened LACDP meetings to is our own version of like a North Korean parliament meeting or party meeting. And one of the things is that, like, at the last one, you know, it was somebody's birthday. I forget who, but one of the leaders of LACDP, and you know, like you might see at a North Korean meeting, all of these cheers for that person's birthday, and you know, it's just so much sycophancy, cult-like behavior that I've witnessed. Now, I like celebrating people's birthdays too, but this notion that the chat box as a floor is belied by 1,001 things, including all the happy birthdays. Right? It's for chatting. It's not the floor. But as you see, he very cleverly tried to turn it into the floor in order to say, you know, well, if you say something that we can consider it as part of the floor and then throw you out of the meeting. He then says, if you want to have personal private conversations, you can use the private message feature. Well, yeah, we know that. That's what the private message feature of chat is for. But the public feature of chat is for all kinds of other things, including, you know, as I say, happy birthdays and endorsements, right? Promoting candidates. You know, you see that a lot in this meeting because it was a big endorsement meeting. At other meetings, there's like 1,001 different messages and kinds of messages that go into the LACDP chat box, just like the chat box of any multi-hour, you know, big, well-attended meeting. There's a lot of stuff that gets said. And at the previous meeting, at the previous Friday Night Forum as well, we showed the video of Brent Robinson, who's Kamala Harris's alternate, complaining so sadly that he was getting distracted by the chat and asking people to please stop.
What?
And
Pathetic.
yeah, thank you, Cynthia. That's what I said. Like you know, he can ignore the chat box. That's another proof, right, that the chat box is not the meeting. You can completely ignore the chat box as an attendee. You don't have to look at a word of it, and many members don't. Right? I've been told by members they just ignore the chat box because there's so much being said, so much going on, and they want to pay attention to the floor, to the meeting, right? So they may, as you know, I do. I move the chat off to the side, and I have it off to the side of as you can kind of see on the share screen, so I can, you know, have it in my left, you know, hand view, but be focused on the meeting. Now, some people they ignore it so much or don't even want to look at it, and so they just don't enlarge it, and they just have it there at the bottom of the screen. And so that with each new person who sends a message into the chat, you get a little orange flash at the bottom of your screen, and you can see a slight bit of what the person wrote. I guess that's distracting to poor Brett Robinson, that he just couldn't take it. and it was shortly after that I was secretly, quietly removed from the February meeting because I'm one of the more active people in the chat. But again, there are a lot of active people in the chat, but they don't like some of the things I say, right? Criticizing them for not following rules. When Melissa and Gabriel and I, Melissa Michelson, Gabriel Ramirez, and myself were removed from the February meeting, we had our hands up throughout that meeting and we weren't being called on. It was the first LACDP meeting in which Mark Gonzalez completely ignored every single critic of his. You know, and he didn't even know what we wanted to raise our hands about. Melissa's was a completely innocuous thing from the start of the meeting, and then it became a big thing because she said, I keep being ignored. And she says, this is an hour later. You keep ignoring me. I've had my hand up for over an hour. You know, so it became then an issue of, why aren't you calling on us, right? You know, and those messages were getting lost often with all the other chat messages that get posted, but we were consistent saying, call on us. We have our hands raised. What are you doing? And finally, shortly after Brent Robinson complained he was getting so distracted by the chat he couldn't pay attention to the meeting, that Gonzalez or Hurd or one of these co-hosts secretly and quietly booted me and then claimed, oh, it was just a technical glitch, and conspiracy theory to claim otherwise. So yeah, that's the way Mark Gonzalez rolls. Okay, so as you can see, he's introduced this person. Then let's see. I think here is where I immediately start raising
Marcella Cortez.
the issue. We have the flag salute here. Okay, she does the flag salute. Let's go. Seo. Okay, so Seo does his credentials report, and I complain, as I've been doing, about the fact that we have this 645 cutoff. For those of you who don't know, LACDP under these new virtual meetings instituted 645 cutoff. So you're considered late if you're not at least 15 minutes early to the meeting, which I and others see as a fundamental violation of our fundamental right to attend meetings. These technical gurus should be able to find a way to admit people after that. At in-person meetings, the old cutoff used to be 7:30. However, even that violates Robert's rules, which says that members have a right to attend meetings. LACDP, however, has claimed the right to deny people the right to attend meetings if they don't come by a predetermined time, this time being 15 minutes before the start of the meeting. And so I ask, like, well, how many people were left out in the cold tonight? And sometimes they'll give the number and sometimes they won't, or sometimes they'll give an estimate, because I'm making the point that, these people have a right to attend meetings and they're being stripped of that right because of this arbitrary early deadline.
With, I believe that's
so Paul Seo, the host has muted you. So I complained. Let's see here. Get in that you know. Oh yeah. So here's where I was cut off, as Drexel has answered. Okay.
Question. Go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Yes. I have a point of information on the discussion, which should have been before the vote. That's a point of order. But the point of information is that we did have a long credentialing past 6:45 tonight to get everybody in. And once again, my question is, how many people did not get in that you know of due to the 6:45 cutoff, as Drexel has answered in the past?
Method. Drexel said he's going to answer that question.
Thank you, Paul.
I also want you to note here the lack of mask wearing. I brought this up a couple meetings ago. It's gone on since the start of the pandemic. For some reason, in violation of the LA County public health orders preventing, unless absolutely necessary, people from different households from gathering in a closed environment. They've been doing it since July 11. I posted a Friday Night Forum recently, a photo of Mark Gonzalez leaning over the shoulder of Elizabeth Hennis, whom I recently discovered is also on his personal PAC's payroll now. And another glaring conflict of interest in which the LACDP Executive Director, Mark Gonzalez, has paid Drexel Hurd on the side through his personal PAC, as well as Elizabeth Hennis now. The two employees of LACDP under his direct supervision, he's now paying on the side through his personal PAC. But you see them, they gather, and they are often not wearing masks. And they're often in close proximity. You can see that by his eye movement that Drexel was very close to him. I don't know what's wrong with these people. They love to post about wear your mask on Facebook, and some of them have that around their profile image, but then they don't practice what they preach. Many of these people were staunch Biden supporters. And Biden, of course, is a staunch proponent of masks, but they don't follow, President Biden's lead. I don't know. I guess they don't want to get made fun of by Donald Trump, like Trump and these Republicans make fun of Biden and Democrats. But it's been really amazing. But I think it speaks to the fact that the powers that be within LACDP do not believe the rules apply to them. They will apply the rules to others, and even when those aren't actually rules, things that they pull out of their rear end, like Mark Gonzalez's 3 strikes and you're out rule. I don't know where he comes up with these things, but they use their power to impose rules on others, but they don't practice the rules themselves. Again, just typical of corrupt leadership. So
those that come in after 6:45 are held in the waiting room. I anticipate that there are probably about 26 people between guests and regular members who might not have gotten in. But as always, Mr. Padilla, you ask that same question every time. So if you would like to message me on the side, I can always answer that question without wasting everybody else's time.
So again, that's another thing that they love to do. They always want you to private message them, call me or email me, instead of discussing these things openly and publicly, as they're supposed to be in a meeting when they're about business at hand. They don't, when we ask questions about the budget or other things, oh, you can ask me that on the side. They don't want to discuss the budget publicly. They don't want to answer any questions about LACDP finances publicly. They say, oh, if it's asked during a meeting, go look at the Cal Access website. It's just ridiculous. Then I think I keep speaking here. I had a point of order that wasn't recognized separately before this discussion. Yeah, so my point of order.
Do you rise?
Regarding your comments on the chat box, this is news to me and all of us, that you're redefining the chat box, which has served as a chat tool, not as the floor. The floor is the floor, and that's audio.
Not a point of order. I'm ruling you out of order. That's one.
And you can hear him say that's one. That's for his 3 strikes and you're out policy that he pulled out of his rear end that does not appear in Robert's Rules of Order. He likes to rule people out of order. He sometimes miscounts. And then at the 3rd strike, he silences you. And you can raise your hand or do whatever, and he won't call on you, won't let you speak. Which again is another grave violation of Robert's Rules and the fundamental right of members to speak at meetings. He does not have the power to rule me out of order. He can say your point is not well taken. He's got to let me finish making my point. And if he doesn't feel it's well taken, he can make that ruling, and then I or another member can appeal his ruling and let the point of order be voted on by the body. That's the way it's supposed to work. And those points of order and appeals and what the chair says are all supposed to be recorded in the minutes, but Olivia Lee does not do that. And another example of Olivia Lee, the secretary, using the minutes to cover for Mark Gonzalez, which is another point that I raise shortly, in which she I'll let my words speak for themselves shortly. So let's see what happens. And then what do you?
Mark, you want me to adopt the report?
Okay. Please continue with the ordinance.
I want to go. Let's see. I think his chair's report is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is next. Here's the secretary. Okay, yeah, here she is. Okay.
In the email that was sent out to you prior to this meeting, you should have received a copy of the minutes. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes? So moved and seconded. Moved by Daryl Sweeney. I can't see your full name. Seconded by Alton Wang. Discussion on this item. I see a couple of hands here.
My goodness.
Maria Skelton. Oh, your hand is down. Okay, Mr. Paul Cole Padilla.
Well, yes, I emailed you, so I would like to discuss that correction addition, but I've had a few points that were not recognized. So that's prior the to thing. that. So Let I me had go- other points. I have to look at my notes here what I was motioning for. But that's the thing is that, you know, you ask a point of information or whatever, you raise your hand, you're supposed to get called on, and the chair doesn't call on you. And he just bypasses you. And then what he'll often do, right, is that if the topic is passed, he'll say, it passed, and you're out of order because we've now left that topic. Well, you didn't call on me when I raised my hand during that topic. So you can't rule me out of order because you were ignoring me. You were the one out of order by ignoring a person with a raised hand. So to you first, though, since you have the floor right now, Olivia.
Okay, so
I emailed you about a correction addition regarding the chair's report in the minutes, and the fact that it excluded the fact that Mark Gonzalez advocated for adoption of the budget during his chair's report. Of course, under Robert's rules, presiding officers cannot advocate for or against things. It needs to be noted in the minutes that Mark Gonzalez did, in fact, during his chair's report, advocate for something, the budget.
okay, Paul, I actually just pulled up your email right now, so thank you for that, emailing me beforehand, and I appreciate your comments. I'm going to respectfully not take those amendments because I believe the way that it is written currently in the minutes accurately depict what had happened in the last meeting. And just as an FYI for you and for the body, I actually typed the minutes as it's happening. And so I believe I captured that correctly. Are there any other discussions on the minutes?
Now, Robert's rules actually forbids her from shooting that down. If she doesn't agree to a correction, then it goes to the body for a vote, right? The motion is to amend the minutes. She doesn't have the power. Again, this is more, you know, dictatorial assumption of power by the powers that be of LACDP, who just want to do what they want to do. Her minutes were not at all an accurate reflection of what Mark Gonzalez said. They didn't include the fact that he advocated for the budget in her minutes, and he did do that. I could roll that tape. Maybe I should. Let's see. If I go back to this was, oops, no, it was this record. Let me try to make sure I get the right one here. I think it's this one. Nope, it's not that one. This one, where he very explicitly advocates for the budget during his chair's report.
Our party is only as strong as our platform and our values. And speaking of which, tonight is another very busy night.
Again, this was from the February meeting, okay, of LACDP. I'll show you her minutes in a minute on how she, well, I'll show you her minutes in a minute, but here's the tape from the February meeting, the chair's report, in which Mark Gonzalez violates Robert's rules again blatantly by using his chair's report to advocate for passage of something later in the meeting.
Also heard, we'll review our 2021-2022 operational budget. This budget is centered around the 3 priorities I listed out at the beginning of the year and ensures that the staff have what they need to run a successful day-to-day operation. And I want to thank Controller Jacob Hake for also working with us this year and making sure that we put together the infrastructure needed to keep our party going and making sure that we elect Democrats up and down in LA County and also helping those all across our state. What this budget is not is a strategic budget. Our political strategy is made in consultation with our executive director, who oversees our political strategy, our elected officers, coordinated campaign partners at the state party level, and through conversations with our elected leadership here at the Central Committee level. I appreciate the work done by the Joint Budget and Finance Committee, as well as the Policy Committee, on providing Drexel and myself and our officers with thoughtful questions to make our party operation stronger. I encourage a swift budget approval tonight, as we have a few things that we need to get through tonight that we really have been working on. On a personal note, it's rare that a chair presents a resolution for consideration, but this pandemic has shown us that our healthcare system needs a complete overhaul. Last month, we passed a resolution calling on the governor to apply for the 1332 waiver. Tonight, we're going to call on the state to support single payer here in California. I made this commitment in my chair's speech last year that healthcare will be a focus of this term, and we're going to get it done. As Los Angeles goes, so does California, and so goes the nation. And I made that passionate commitment to each and every single one of you, as I said that healthcare is a priority and it's personal for me, and it's important as the only chair in the state to lead that effort. Criminal justice reform was on the ballot in November, and our district attorney is working hard to reform Los Angeles with the promises he made during the campaign. I want to thank Elise Moore and partners who worked on tonight's resolution and encourage you to support those efforts. I know the buzz is recent with the 8M results, or some folks are still refreshing their page on that from just a little while ago. I want to congratulate all of those who won their races and those who ran, especially during this time. I haven't looked at my phone, so I know a lot of folks are very excited. I also want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the CADEM staff for running a statewide election with very, very limited resources. When they were only given a month and a half to make the changes necessary that were voted out of the e-board, it's thankless, and I encourage you all to reach out to Yvette, our executive director for the state party, and her team for all of their hard work. Folks, you know, I know exactly how hard they've been working to make sure that every vote counted, and it was extremely hard. So if you can connect with the California Democratic Party staff, please give them some love. They've been working extremely hard to make sure that this process was done with full transparency. Candidates for state party officers will be doing a meet and greet with members next week, Monday, February 15th. So be sure to check out that opportunity. We'll take that up, endorsement at the March meeting. And in closing, folks, let's get back to work. As always, be sure to reconnect or to connect with your regional or AD leadership for important information as to how we keep this party forward. So let me turn it over to...
So you could hear there, right? He didn't just advocate for the passage of the budget. He said the swift passage of the budget because we have so many things to get to, right? He can't do that. The chair has to be fair, impartial, and neutral. Unless in a rare case, he leaves the chair seat, turns over the gavel, takes a seat, waits to be called on, raises his hand, and gets called on just like any other member. But Robert's rules said that should be a very rare occurrence because the General Assembly membership has got to see the chair as a fair and impartial conductor of meetings and not a partisan. And not trying to impose his or her or their will on the assembly. Mark Gonzalez violates that meeting after meeting. And yet, it should be noted that he's gotten a little bit more careful about it after Lawrence Axon said falsely that he has the same rights and privileges as anybody else, and read, you know, that very selectively from Robert's rules, neglecting the portions from Robert's rules that says the chair cannot exercise those rights and privileges in a General Assembly meeting, except in very limited circumstances and rare circumstances. And so he's gotten careful, like at this last meeting after I was thrown out, he actually steps aside, passes the gavel during the resolutions portion because he now styles himself as this Medicare for All champion, and he was supporting a resolution. Well, okay, but what he's also doing here is stealing speaking time that he and the powers that be of LACDP love to limit, right, to just 1 minute, 3 pro, 3 con, that's it, right? They don't want a lot of debate. And he's stealing as much time as he wants for himself during his chair speech to advocate for or against things. As you saw, he also mentioned the healthcare waiver issue during this chair's report, and he mentioned his support also for George Gascon's criminal justice reforms. All well and good, but completely inappropriate, in complete violation of Robert's rules. He's stealing debate time for himself and advocating for things. He cannot do that as chair. Okay, it's a complete abuse of power. So here are the minutes. Let me go over. Let me stop this screen share real quick. Let me bring up the minutes so I get the right ones. Okay. This was okay. Let's see. Let me go to the minutes that I was complaining about. They are okay. Wait, March, January, and where? Okay, yeah. So here are the minutes that I was complaining about from February. Okay, let me return to screen share. Let's go. Okay, and so here you can see the minutes, and you see in the chair's report. Okay. It says M. Gonzalez gave commentary on Black History Month, okay, et cetera, Lunar New Year, rise in hate crimes against AAPI community. That was an unrecorded portion, I think, from what I showed. But he also made commentary on the current impeachment trial happening in the U.S. Senate, insurrection, commentary on the current events and actions by the Biden. Lastly, he noted the 2021-22 budget report is next and expressed his thanks to D. Hurd and Jay Hake. Well, he did more than express his thanks, Olivia Lee, as I was trying to correct at the March Minute. He also advocated for their swift passage. And he then went on to advocate for the passage of the Medicare for All waiver resolution and support of criminal justice reforms being undertaken by George Gascon. She just completely leaves that out, right? And is it accidental? Is it purposeful? The result, though, is it's covering up his blatant violations of Robert's Rules of Order, right? And I would say it's at least purposeful in her not wanting to change the minutes, because I asked her to amend those minutes, and she refused. And she claimed that her description was accurate when it clearly was not. Again, she had to put that up to a vote, and she did not do so. I was then muted, and that's the way they roll in LACDP. But that's the way we roll as capital D Democrats and small d Democrats in opposition, right? I don't want people to get depressed. I don't want people to think that we should stop fighting, because the fight for democracy, the struggle for democracy is long. It is never ending. And it always runs up against forces of autocracy, of corruption that we're seeing within LACDP. So that is why there was one member who in the chat box kind of complained. He's often on our side when it comes to, advocating for democratic reforms within LACDP. But he was saying like, why are you complaining about the minutes? This is a small issue. It's not a small issue. The issue is that Mark Gonzalez is abusing his power, advocating for or against things during his chair's report that he should not be doing. It is a complete violation of his duties under Robert's Rules of Order. So so let me go back to the meeting. Let me go back to where were we? Here's the March meeting. Okay, and there's Ms. Lee. Oh, I've stopped screen sharing. Let's reinitiate screen share. Okay, so, oops. There's Ms. Lee. And then.
You're all set, Rob.
Thank you so much. So all those in favor of adopting the minutes, please press the yes button at this time.
Neglecting the amendment and unilaterally declaring this.
And staff, if you could also help me kind of look through whenever that's over, that'd be great.
And okay, so that's the minutes. Okay, and then Sergio Correa does a vice chair's report. Pat Sanders does a vice chair's report. Oh, I brought up, oh, well, yeah, I was also putting this in the chat for people. The Robert's Rules of Order frequently asked questions. Very important for people to know. Okay, and let's see. So here we have Gonzalez. Okay, so here's where the endorsements are taken. That's Norma Alcala. I thought she put out a very impressive email the other day, and maybe I should share that since it is kind of a topic du jour for many of us as Della. She gets
Republican David Holiday on Devin Nunes.
Did y'all see Norma's email yesterday? I thought it was excellent about autocracy and democracy within the Democratic Party, and that's what's actually going on here. She's referring to the state party, but the things that we're seeing here at the local level are the same fights that we're having at the state level with the party. Let me bring up her email. Let's see here. Norma. I do not know Norma. I do intend to vote for her, but she didn't ask me to do this, but I'm going to because I thought she really hit the nail on the head. And she's not afraid to tell the truth about what's going on. Let me bring this up for you. Oops. Wait. Let's go back here. Yikes. Okay, come on. Let's go over to share screen again. Sorry, folks. There we go. Norma put out this email yesterday. Vote Democratic, not autocratic. Just a picture of her introducing Bernie Sanders and Danny Glover. And she says, now I want to tell you why I'm running on real issues. We all belong to Democratic clubs. Do any of the clubs you belong to allow solely the chair to make all decisions on finances and policy? If your answer is no, then you are dead wrong. You are a delegate to CDP, which has only one decision maker and no shared governance with other officers or delegates. You would not run your club this way. With the current CDP bylaws, no officer but the chair has any power whatsoever to build grassroots power, reduce corporate influence, or dismantle systemic racism because the bylaws do not provide for shared governance. Officers have no defined roles. There is no plan to do any of this because the first step must be shared governance. Understand, I disparage no one. I promote progressive reform. If we want to uplift the next generation of leaders, then make the Democratic Party democratic. If we are to make progressive changes, we need to first amend the bylaws to be able to do so. This election is falsely framed as a chair's labor slate versus all other candidates. We all support labor. This election is truly about progressive values of shared governance versus the status quo of autocracy. This election is about party democracy versus party autocracy. I have a plan. It starts with amending the bylaws so delegates and officers have a role in the party. Vote party democracy, not party autocracy. Si se puede. And it lists some of her endorsements. It must be stated though that the LACDP chair does not under LACDP bylaws quite have the same level of dictatorial powers as the CDP chair. However, the LACDP still has a lot of dictatorial powers. And we were told at the last meeting by a longtime member, right, that those powers accrued over time under the reign of Eric Bauman from 2000 to 2017, and that in CDP, right, it was the 89-91 term of Jerry Brown that saw him centralize power under the chair and get bylaws changes that allowed the chair to become a very powerful dictator. The LACDP dictator, though, is pretty powerful too under its bylaws. However, he even goes beyond those, right, and violates Robert's rules left and right. So, yeah, it's pretty bad. It is the fight, as I say, between autocracy and democracy. But let's go back to the meeting, as it were, the prior LACDP meeting. So that's, oh wait, let me go back to screen share here. let's go back to screen share. Okay, screen share. Okay, so there's Norma speaking.
Were elected and heavily
I'm going to
elected.
skip over her speech here. We go through all the candidates running for all their officers, CDP officer positions on which LACDP was making endorsements. Right, there's Daraca. He's been quite a voice in favor of reforms, bylaws within LACDP. And okay, so we get through the candidates, and then what we see is the vote, and that becomes quite problematic. And that is when I speak up. A lot of people are having problems voting, and LACDP was not explaining things well or helping people much. And yeah, let's go back. Here is where I first put into the chat. Oh, there it is. Okay, so let's go back to where just a little before that is where. Okay, so it was right here, Linda, that he was rude to you. Again, maskless, talking with people in proximity. They're all in the same room together, or at least most of them. And Linda, so as you can see here, submit button not working. And why? Wait,
15 seconds.
Let me pause this. We have a Chris entering the waiting room. I just want to make sure this person is not a Zoom bomber. Let's admit this person, Dennis, and ask them to identify themselves. Are you there, Chris?
Probably not.
Is Chris there, Dennis?
He's now in the meeting.
Okay, Chris, hello, welcome. Can you give your full name? Are you there, Chris? Hello, Chris.
Yeah, got it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, Chris Robeson. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure you weren't the Zoom bomber. Okay, very good. All right, welcome. Okay, so just continuing along here. Here is where Mark Gonzalez displays his routine rudeness towards senior citizens. Okay.
Ms. Perez, you have to hit every single selection in the poll, and then that will allow you to submit.
All right, so I didn't like that comment. It's not the first time he's
Poll is ended now. Staff will tally the results.
And so you'll see here, you can see on the screen, there's the chat box. And then Deborah Hurd even is complaining that she didn't get to submit hers. You can see at the top of the screen, these people with their raised hands, Paul Koretz being one of them. And Sarah Roos says, yeah, it looks like there are several people unable to vote. So I type in the chat here, Mr. Chair, Sarah also says, staff, please consider leaving the vote open for those members to phone or text or email in their votes. I said, Mr. Chair, please stop raising your voice and patronizing. Yeah, you'll see the senior citizens. and people. Yeah, I did. I think point of order or point of privilege for the assembly.
Yeah, I made a motion and he just ignored me.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he does. I said, this is a
Yes.
pattern of yours at meetings. So I typed that into the chat box, and you'll see here shortly, I believe it's 4 minutes later, that the sergeant at arms complains about my, apparently is complaining about that comment of mine. I don't get recognized, right, with my point of privilege. But then I get this remark from the sergeant at arms. So let me show you all that. Let me pause this. I do want to, though, show you, boy, when Drexel is so snarky.
Hi, everyone. We are just, we're working on counting the abstentions. And as soon as we calculate up the actual votes, excluding abstentions, we'll just launch the actual results. So just give us a second. Thanks.
Let me check my timestamp here. It is at, oh, the Koretz thing doesn't happen until, okay, 1:40. So let me go to.
Oh, hang on. Mark is going to announce the votes by. Hold on.
So let me fast forward a little bit here. Let's go to 1:40. 1:49:02 is where I then. So this is about 4 minutes after. Oops.
Know that there were a lot of people who could not hit the submit button. There are a lot of people who did not vote all on every race. That is why they could not.
48. Okay, let's go here. Oh yeah, here. Okay, so I bypassed it. So you could see that she responds here. She sends me a private message there at 9:14. So 9:10 was my message. And then she at 9:14 says, please be respectful to everyone, in a private message to me. The chair was not yelling at anyone. No, but he was raising his voice at poor Linda Perez there. And he says he was simply explaining what to do to cast a vote if you had a different device. Please, once again, she says, oops, what's going on here? She says, please, once again, be respectful of others. Thank you. Well, thank you, Sergeant at Arms. And so I reply. I think I reply right here.
Good evening, everyone. So we're almost done counting.
Portion. This is where he then goes off on Paul Koretz, but in a very sly, snarky way, or very shortly.
If you have been in an in-person meeting before, you know this actually takes a little bit more time than we anticipate, so we appreciate your patience. I know that there were a lot of people who could not hit the submit button. There are a lot of people who did not vote all on every race. That is why they could not hit the submit button. If you accidentally exited out of your ballot, that is a technical issue that we cannot relaunch the poll for an individual person, so that is on the member, unfortunately. In this case, the amount of folks who have voted and the results of this race, as we are looking at them right now, is overwhelming enough for that not to result in a change. And I know that people are asking. I know, Mr. Lieberman, you're asking how many members in that situation. It's impossible to say. If we were in person, if somebody did not complete a ballot, that ballot would have been spoiled. That is something, I know there's a lot of new members. I'm happy to explain that piece of it. And that's what would happen in person.
You heard me say Jesus Christ, invoking the Lord's name in vain, because I'm just so sick and tired of the condescension, right, that you hear in his voice and directed specifically towards, these newcomers. He doesn't say senior citizens, but it's very much also targeted at senior citizens. And so, yeah.
We are going to continue with this race. Mr. Koretz.
This is where he goes and does his little trick against Paul Koretz in a very sly, snarky way, ragging on longtime LA City Council member Paul Koretz.
Answer your question real quick, because I see that you have a quick question.
Yeah, my question was, my ballot wouldn't let me get from the first page. So I was absolutely stuck and had no way to vote. And this was not on me. This is on the process.
Technical issues always happen. I'm not entirely sure. It seemed that 227 other people could have didn't have that problem.
I mean, can you believe that comment? I got a private message shortly thereafter.
So rude.
From someone.
Snotty.
Yeah, from someone saying, "My God, like if I were Paul Koretz, I'd be outraged." Yeah, I mean, like it's just, yeah, it's just it's just so condescending, so offensive. But they call us the offensive ones.
So how do we deal with this, Paul? I mean, we've got to figure out a way to deal with this other than getting beat up every month.
Well, perhaps, just filing some more complaints formally and informally, speaking up at meetings, forcing him to, because sometimes Gonzalez will say, it's the same 1 or 2 or 3 people, and then other times he'll say it's the same, 10 or 12 people. Well, if more people speak up, if more people start calling points of order and parliamentary inquiries, points of information, and so then he can't say that anymore. We really do have to make our voices heard, or make him, ignore more voices. The chat.
Can we or should we complain to the CRC at State Party? I know there's no direct response to that, but they have intervened in other county committees. Chris Robles and San Bernardino is the case that I'm thinking of, where Baumanistas were out of control. Is that something we should do? Because we're not going to get anywhere appealing to Drexel and Mark Gonzalez.
Well, for any and all to change the behavior of these people or remove them from office. I mean, Robert's rules does allow for a 2/3 vote to do that. We'll see if eventually 2/3 of the people, I don't know if we're there right now, acknowledge that they don't change, they've got to go. I think it's the last time. I think they've already shown that they've got to go, but unfortunately, I don't know if we have 2/3 who agree with us yet.
Well, I would suspect we do not.
But yeah. So in the meantime, I think we should continue exposing and explaining, and doing whatever we can to get the word out and hold them as accountable as we can as just regular members. So speaking of that, I do want to, though, get to the removal issue. Let me bring on screen. So there you heard. I want to show you the private messages, because this did come up. Somebody said, well, maybe you said something untoward to her, but she didn't claim that when she booted me from the meeting. This is Shannon Thomas Allen, I believe is the name.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to interject a quick note that Paul Koretz is traditionally quite a progressive elected official who was in the assembly and I think continues that way in the city council. And it might be worth reaching out to him to talk about this issue and whether he's willing to assist in having some of them addressed.
Yeah, yeah, that would be worth it. Let's go to, let me go back to screen share real quick. So I'm not hiding anything from you. I have nothing to hide. And my private messages with the Sergeant at Arms. Let me bring those up. Wait, let's go back to share screen here. Share screen, share screen. Okay, so let's go over here. And okay, so that was the first one. After Gonzalez was rude to Linda Perez, I said, Mr. Chair, point of privilege for the assembly. Please stop raising your voice and being so patronizing to senior citizens and people you don't like. This is a pattern of yours at meetings. And then she responds 4 minutes later. As you saw, the timestamp on mine was 9:10 and 9:14. She direct messages me and says, please be respectful to everyone. The chair was not yelling at anyone. He was simply explaining what to do to cast a vote if you had a different device. Please once again be respectful of others. Thank you. What she's really saying is, please be respectful to the chair. That just appointed me the Sergeant at Arms. She claimed that I guess she had been the Sergeant at Arms before, and then Gonzalez is resurrecting the position now, right? Because I guess, you know, the cover story from the February meeting of technical glitches wasn't good enough regarding the removal of Melissa Michelson, Gabriel Ramirez, and myself from that meeting. So he's got to have a Sergeant at Arms do it this time. And as Chris Robeson, as you can see here, why is the chair not recognizing the raised hands? Right? Thank you, Chris, for speaking up and speaking out. And so here in the next direct message, I reply at 9:15 to Ms. Thomas Allen saying, Ms. Thomas, please remind the chair to do the same. He routinely does not. I do. That is, of course, being respectful to people. And then she replies at 9:30. Oh, wait, darn it. Did I miss one? Oh, wait. Oh, rats. I think I missed a private message. Darn it. There's a private message that I sent about July 11. So the let me go back to rats. This photo from there. I think I just forgot to. Okay, here is the. Oh, rats. Where was it? There's a message that I sent her that somehow I didn't. I do have the screenshot, and I thought I had queued it up. Wait, here it is. Okay, yeah, let me send these two. Okay, so let me. Sorry about this, folks. I left out these two. I'm not hiding anything from you. Let me send these pics. Okay, so let me. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's go these. Oops, come on. Where to go? Okay. No, that's just one. Oh, rats. Let me. This is my apologies, folks. Okay, so here are the two that that I accidentally left out of that scroll. So let me bring these up for you. Okay, just give me a minute here. Okay, so we should have this momentarily. Okay, it's coming. Okay. What's the delay? Come on. Okay, so let me go over here. Geez. Okay, let's go to share screen. Let's go. Okay, so take a look at these two. So she says then, I'm relating all messages of respect to everyone, including the chair. Oh, wonderful. My name is Thomas Allen for clarification. Shannon Thomas Allen, that is. Okay, and then I reply, well, in all the meetings since July 11, the first of this 4-year term, have you ever asked Chair Gonzalez to be respectful when he has been so disrespectful on so many occasions? And if so, how many times have you told him to be respectful, right? Because she claimed that she had. And so wait, let me go over here to the other messages. Just 3 more, if you bear with me. And okay, so, or 2 more, I guess. Oops, let's go back here. And okay, and okay. So then she replies here. First of all, since July 11, due to the pandemic, I was not participating in this capacity. I had to follow process and procedures to allow me to continue my role. I'm officially back in my role. With that being said, you will not speak to me or anyone else in this matter. This is a warning from me. If you continue to speak to me in said tone, you will be removed. Well. That was a stunning comment to make. And so, oh, rats. Do I not have, oh, geez, I don't, Lord, where's the darn, so then my final message to her, yeah, here it is, was this one, darn it. And I thought I had them all queued up. Okay, this is the final one, I swear. And then after this one, I did not hear from her until she announced my removal an hour later during the meeting on the floor. Okay. Okay, let's go over, wait, let me go. Sarah is saying, hi folks, I have to be with family for a sec, so not here. Just want to point out that what I sent around in my 8050, that even if all the disenfranchised votes had gone one way or the other, it would not have changed the final outcome. Yeah, and that's exactly what Drexel had said. However, I don't think that's any kind of excuse for the condescension, the rudeness, the raising of voice, that we see and saw. And so let's go over to that final one from our dear Sergeant at Arms. Oops, that's not the right one. Okay, let's go. No. Let's go over here. Where am I? Okay, so this is the final message that I sent. Oh, no, I gotta go back to screen share. Okay, so share screen. So let's go over here, and this is the final one. And I said, excuse me, Ms. Thomas Allen, you did not hear my tone. I'm typing and not raising my voice like Mr. Gonzalez or disrespecting you. I asked a question of you, and you did not answer, however. And so when I replied like that, I forgot to make it a direct message, right? And so it went to everyone, and that's why then I said this was a private message I intended for the Sergeant at Arms. Sorry, folks. I'm showing it to you now, though, so they don't accuse me of saying anything untoward towards her, or hiding anything from you. which I'm not. I'm showing you exactly what was said between the sergeant at arms and me about an hour before. Then I was suddenly, shockingly, and in complete violations of the rules, removed. Okay, so there's that. And let's go, I think, to the removal. I do want to, we did start late, and I did put on one thing, the 9:15 kind of ending. I said in the email between 9 and 9:30, because we do often go past 9. So it's 8:41 now, and I do want to finish through this meeting. We started, you know, I don't know, like 7:20 tonight. Let's go back here. Oops, sorry, folks. Okay, so let's go to the meeting again, and we will see where I was removed. Okay, let me go bring that up on screen. Here we go. Okay, and okay. Oh, I that's another thing though. I should go back to show you in the chair's report once again, Mark Gonzalez advocating for things. Let's see if I can go back here. Where was he? I skipped over that. There. Let's see.
Get your back seat and I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Okay, let's see.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair Carrillo, for your remarks. And I apologize, I might have got my order mixed up, but thank you so much for your report. Now turning it over to Vice Chair Ms. Pat Sanders.
Oh, wait. Maybe. Wait, let's see.
Couple of months, we will be kicking off 2022.
Here we go. So let's.
Sorry, Mark. I didn't realize my hand was up.
As you can see, my hand's up. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Wingard. Moving on to the chair's report. What here? I want to give a shout out to both our LACDP.
Again, he just completely ignores my hand, Todd Jones's hand, Margaret Finstrom's hand. I, at the moment, don't recall what we were raising our hands about. But again, he just ignores people. Just steamrolls and silences.
Staff members who just celebrated birthdays or are celebrating birthdays. Elizabeth Hennis last month, and Drexel heard this Thursday. So happy birthday to our staff. Be sure to give them some love for all of the work that they keep doing, both the party and the Central Committee operations running. Those two individuals are phenomenal and making sure that this meeting goes well and well tonight. We've got a long night of endorsements ahead of us and some work from our resolutions and legislative action committee coming up, so I'll make this report brief. I want to welcome all of tonight's special guests, candidates for California Democratic Party officer. Please give them your time, attention through their speeches before the vote. At the beginning of the year, I laid out our priorities for this year, and one of them being recruitment. As you may have seen, we recently launched the application process for a new Training and Advancement Academy, a 10-week cohort academy in partnership with the National Democratic Training Committee. I'm very excited about that. We've got many calls and texts from across the state of so many people who want to be a part of this. And part of being in the Democratic Party is building our bench. And part of building our bench is building our bench not just for folks who run for office and run to the next office, but it's about energizing the youth and people to get them there. And so this academy is free for those selected, thanks to our partners. You can go to lacdp.org/TAP, TAP, for more information and reach out to Drexel with any questions, and staff will put that link in the chat. Additionally, over the next couple of months, we will be kicking off 2022 planning, meeting with their AD leadership and regional vice chairs to identify recruiting opportunities for local races in your assembly district. We have over 300 races next year, and we want to make sure that we've got strong Democrats running in every single seat. Please be sure to get with your leadership and start having those conversations about where we can get Democrats to run and win. I do want to be clear that recruitment doesn't automatically mean the endorsement. Every Democrat will need to earn the support of this body through our regular process. However, we are committed to competing and getting Democrats in office to work on behalf of our communities. We had a successful town hall with Los Angeles District.
So I just need to interrupt here quickly. He's promoting obviously what the county party should do, right? Which is endorse, support local Democrats running for local offices, the vast majority of which are nonpartisan offices. However, so many of the powers that be in LACDP, especially Democratic Party elected officials, county level, state level, federal level, run around into local city elections, local jurisdiction elections, school board, etc., endorsing non-Democrats in complete violation of the bylaws of LACDP. They do not, however, hold these people accountable. It says that's grounds for termination from LACDP. The LACDP Rules and Bylaws Committee is not going to take up this issue again until this fall. It has been a recurring issue for years. They do not impose penalties, let alone termination, on these politicians who routinely support Republicans in local elections. It is shameful. And these Democratic politicians say, oh, well, it's just a nonpartisan local election. Well, no, the LACDP bylaws don't make that differentiation. It says ground for termination, support of non-Democrats for public office. It doesn't say local nonpartisan. It says public office. And so what really irks me is when these people run around and say, you know, oh, we're Democrats and we support Democrats and Democrats, rah, rah, rah. And meanwhile, they're running around supporting Republicans behind the scenes. It's shameful. That is not what we are supposed to be doing as county party leaders. We're supposed to be supporting our fellow Democrats. And it also, speaking of what Mark Gonzalez and Drexler Hurd also like to say to people, they also love to say, well, we got to fundraise for this, right? And yet there's no evidence that Mark Gonzalez has given anything more than any reportable contribution, that is $100 or more, since 2017 for himself or his PAC. If he can find it in the finances that I can't, I'm sure I'd love to hear it from him, but I cannot find any record since 2017 of him giving any money himself or through his personal PAC. These people love to talk about fundraising, but they don't actually give money themselves. Come on, what's going on here? So to continue.
Last month. I want to thank Judicial Interview co-chairs Elise Moore and Frankie Carrillo for moderating this huge turnout for our kickoff inaugural event. Coming up, we've got a double header of town halls on March 24th. We'll welcome Assembly members Miguel Santiago and Ash Calra and our newest Senator-elect Denis Recendez for a town hall discussion on moving healthcare in California forward and how a single-payer system will work in our state. And folks, might I add, there are a number of central committees who have accepted the chair's challenge, and they're accepting healthcare for all, and we are leading that charge here in LA County. Then again, on April the 8th, we'll welcome LA Supervisor Hilda Solis and LA City Council President Nuri Martinez for a conversation in town hall on what the county and the city are working on and how both entities can work together, and that we as Democrats can support our two strong women. Head to lacdp.org/LACDP presents for more information. We'll also be announcing very soon information about our upcoming 2021 JFK Awards, so be on the lookout for that information. I look forward to meeting with Regions 3 and 4 next month as we'll listen to the things going on in that Assembly District and regions. So staff will be working with regional vice chairs to schedule those town halls soon. We have a lot of resolutions on tonight's agenda, including resolutions supporting hotel workers, vaccinations for teachers and school staff, and important ones calling for a state audit of the Metropolitan Water District and the abolishment of the filibuster. I encourage you all to support those resolutions tonight.
Again, complete violation of Robert's Rules of Order. You cannot do that, Mark Gonzalez. You cannot steal time for yourself during your chair's report to advocate for or against things on the agenda. That's completely in violation of Robert's Rules of Order.
We've got a marathon of legislation to get through tonight as well, focusing on sentencing guidelines, affordable housing, ballot labeling, and AB 1400, the Guaranteed Health Care for All bill. I hope you all will take the committee recommendations and support these important piece of legislation. Staff will put the reports in the chat, and once those reports come up, then you can see them in the chat. Tonight is a second reading for a couple of bylaw changes, including an important one on reapportionment after redistricting and making the vice president a member of our Los Angeles Central Committee. So let's support those rule changes tonight. And
again, here he's saying, let's support those rule changes. He cannot say that, but he keeps doing it.
Let's get back to work. As always, be sure to connect with your regional or AD leadership for more information on upcoming events on the LACDP. So moving forward from the chair's reports.
Now, I also want to bring up, before I move on farther, that Mark Gonzalez is not the only one abusing his power, of course. Another person is Executive Director Drexel Hurd. An important part of this last meeting was LACDP endorsements of California Democratic Party officer positions, right? It turns out that Drexel Hurd, through his personal website and email, has sent out precisely 2 emails. Let me share the screen again. He has sent out 2. And as you can see here, here's his email archive from his MailChimp account. On Christmas Eve, he sent out a Happy Holidays one. And then on March 9th, the day of the meeting at 1:53 p.m., he sends out, let's stay California strong with these CODEM officer candidates. Now, again, this is from his personal email account. However, he is the executive director of LACDP, sending this right the same day as the meeting. And this speaks to why it is a complete conflict of interest to have Drexel Hurd be both a member of LACDP, a voting member of LACDP through his status as an executive board member with the California Democratic Party from his assembly district, and also be an employee of LACDP as its executive director. It creates an incredible conflict of interest. It should be forbidden in the bylaws, but it should be not practiced just out of fairness and decency. It shouldn't even have to be specified in the bylaws. You'd think, like, no, you can't do that. But of course, the precedent was set, right? Under the Eric Bauman years, such that just like Drexel Hurd on the personal payroll of Mark Gonzalez through his PAC was the former executive director of LACDP in business with Eric Bauman, right? Through their Victory Land Partners political consulting firm, right? As we've also discussed, having Mark Gonzalez also serve as a treasurer of this Democratic Club slate mailer that was paying Bauman and that Gonzalez is treasurer for. Again, Gonzalez was Eric Bauman's right-hand man, treasurer for this slate they were involved with, handpicked successor, protege of Eric Bauman. That needs to be remembered and retold. But anyway, here's Drexel's email. This is the one he sent from his MailChimp, and it says, "My fellow Democrat, another email today. I know, I'm sorry, that's that important, right?" Now, again, this is not from LACDP, his LACDP email address, even though he has used that email address, right, to campaign or arrange for campaign appearances of the officer corps slate, right? When we were trying to, for Friday Night Forum, get these candidates in an open forum doing Q&A, Drexel was handling their appointments for them, including Jacob Hake, who wasn't an officer, through his LACDP.E lacdp.org email address. This time he's using his personal one. However, it's the day of the meeting. It's the second email he's ever sent. And he mass sends this email, and we can read it again. He said, "I've been so proud of the work our party's been doing, right? Biden and Harris, still so much work to do, et cetera, et cetera." Another, paragraph there. Strong leadership steering our California Democratic Party, and leadership, bold, all this stuff. And that's why I'm supporting these leaders. And he gives his endorsements for the election he's going to oversee that night as the executive director, counting votes, announcing results. And he sends out through his personal email his endorsements just hours before the meeting to everyone. Completely wrong. You would think that he would realize it's wrong. I don't know. Maybe he does and he doesn't care. But it's just completely inappropriate for him to do that as the executive director, to send out this endorsement list just hours before the meeting to everyone. So that's that with Drexel for now. Okay, so let me stop the share here. Okay, so let's go back to the removal. Where were we? Let's go back to, okay, so we heard Gonzalez again advocating in complete violation of Robert's rules for things on the agenda. Here we get to the removal. Okay, there we go. We were in the middle of Tony Hale and yeah, okay, here we go. So Tony Hale and Mary Rose Ortega giving their committee report, going through the resolutions here, and then suddenly the Sergeant at Arms comes on screen. This is an hour after my last communication with the Sergeant at Arms.
For them. With no other discussion seen, we now go to the vote. All in favor of passing the resolution, please raise your hand.
And you see in the chat, Mitchell Sy says it would be nice if we got these resolutions earlier than the day before. Yeah, I agree. Same thing with Legislative Action Committee. I know they do a lot of work, but Dina Eaglesrud was, complaining during the meeting about people not doing their homework, even though the Legislative Action Committee does so much work getting these things prepared. That she was saying, please to read these things ahead of time. Well, we often don't get them until the night before. So.
We're going to clear the hands. We have a count for that. Go ahead, Mr. Hale.
If all those opposed to the resolution, please raise your hand.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Hale, there were.
Yeah, here's you see Dina says this also in person. So Mitchell Sy was saying it'd be nice if you get these ahead of time. I agree that we should be reviewing this stuff. And then Dina replies, as someone who works really hard, all caps, writing a report for you all to read, we very much appreciate members who read the report ahead of time. Thank you to those who do. Well, okay, but it would be nice if the committees would get it to us before the night before, and the executive director email it out before the night before.
106 in support of the resolution, and there were none in opposition to the motion passed.
Thank you, Mary Rose.
Before we move on to Mary Rose, I need to recognize our Sergeant at Arms. who has called my attention and recognized this.
Now, as you can see, well, I haven't been chatting here in the box much in the past hour. I mean, the things that I was saying were, you know, just normal things. So, but you hear what this woman here has to say next.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to actually put on right now that due to the extremely amount of messages I've been receiving privately about the matter of respect, I would like to remove Mr. Cole Padilla from this meeting tonight.
What? Yeah, that was my what live on my screen recording at home.
Thank you, Chair. We are removing Mr. Paul Padilla for the number of complaints received tonight. Thank you so much to our Sergeant at Arms. Moving forward.
Everyone was shocked, Paul. That was an hour after you last.
Yeah, the last communication. And again, I really do. So then Tony Dale and Mary Rose Ortega just proceed along. I don't know if they would have proceeded along if I had been dragged out of the room, which is what would have happened, right, in an in-person meeting. You know, you see kind of the normalization of dictatorship, right? That everybody then just continues along after someone's been killed on the floor of the Senate, you know, with regular business. It was stunning. Rick Tuttle raised his hand immediately to ask a question about it. He was allowed to speak by Gonzalez in video I saw after this point, after I was kicked out of the meeting, but he was never allowed to ask the question. He said, I have a question about the removal of a member, but he said it can wait. And Gonzalez said, yeah, not right now. And Tuttle had his hand up the rest of the meeting, never was called on, okay, to address the actual question of why I was removed. Again, in complete violation of Robert's rules, which mandate a vote for a removal of a member. Except in extraordinary circumstances, it does allow if a member, it said, is like behaving like a non-member who is behaving in a manner, it says, like that is completely antithetical to the announced purpose of the meeting, right? So for instance, if somebody comes in as a streaker, I would say, right, or just starts ranting and raving or throwing tomatoes at the chair or water bottles or whatever, yeah, but you know, under ordinary circumstances, even in serious violations, right, there has to be due process and a vote, right, a discussion and a vote on whether or not to remove a member from a meeting, right? Again, non-members don't have those rights, and I think it's really to protect, right, a group from having non-members crash a meeting, right? That they've got to be able to be removed without having to go through a formal due process proceeding. But you know, for a member to suddenly just be removed, disappeared, this is what dictatorships do. Los desaparecidos, right? Old Argentina and its dictatorship would have been proud of that moment. And so you see people,
it's kind of the continuation of
all of a sudden people in the chat box are complaining, saying, what's going on? I say here, typing in the chat box as I get removed. Removing me would be a complete violation of Robert's Rules of Order. It's RONR for short, the abbreviation. Oops. Oh, it stands for Robert's Rules of Order newly revised. So anyway, then you see my screen eventually here go blank. Oh wait, but I want you to see that wonderful graphic as it does so here.
We are removing Mr. Paul Padilla for the number of complaints received tonight.
And he says, due to a number of complaints we received tonight. So I guess the way to remove someone, according to their, you know, rules violating rules, is to just complain privately, and you can get anyone you want removed. So I guess you could complain privately about the chair if enough people did, and suddenly the chair would disappear, I guess, at the doing of the sergeant at arms.
Go ahead.
Ms. Allen will be removing Mr. Padilla along with the business of the day. Mr. Campbell.
Ray Rose, go ahead.
Boycott the Shell Hotel in Santa Monica. It's kind of a continuation of the boycott. I'm gonna read the second word. The preservation of coastal access for all people is part of the Southern Democratic Party platform. We should uphold our commitment that's principle by holding people and corporations accountable for violations of the Coastal Act. Therefore, be it resolved that the left.
And there, as you see, the host has removed you from the meeting. The same message I got at the February one when I was secretly and quietly removed along with Melissa Michelson and Gabriel Ramirez. So, so that was the end of the meeting for me, folks. And maybe where we should end a review of the last meeting. There's obviously other stuff we could talk about if you want to. It's 9:06 though. And I did want to preview the upcoming meeting, at least briefly. So let me bring this screen back up. Where was the, let's see. Yeah, okay. So let me just check my notes real fast. Yeah, we did talk about that and that and that. And oh, I did want to mention here that Gary Shea, like, where has he been? As parliamentarian, right, he's supposed to intervene if he sees serious violations of Robert's Rules of Order. That's what Robert's Rules of Order says the parliamentarian is supposed to do. Now, it says that the parliamentarian is supposed to do that, if possible, privately, you know, without having to do it publicly. However, because of Zoom and the fact that, unlike these others, maybe Shea takes COVID more seriously, he has not been visible in the room with these other cohorts of Mark Gonzalez, right, at LACDP headquarters. So he would have to publicly speak out, or I guess private direct message Mark Gonzalez, or text him or phone him or something. But the parliamentarian is supposed to be reining in the chair if the chair is violating the rules. He's not doing that. There's no more serious violation, right, of Robert's Rules of Order, arguably, than the unjust removal of a member from a meeting. And so Gary Shea, for him not to intervene and say, whoa, you can't do this, it's just unbelievable. But it's happening. Stephanie Terrazas has a raised hand. Stephanie.
Hi, Paul. This I'm not talking about, I was going to comment on what you were talking about, but I just wanted to remind folks, delegates in Region 15, if you guys have not voted yet, I am advocating Cindy Duran. She's up against establishment Primo Castro. So please vote for her. She's been running a good campaign all on her own, and been attacked by Primo and not welcomed her into the party, but has, you know, been very dismissive of her, and, you know, trying to well, obviously, I guess, because that's her opponent, his opponent, but anyways, it's been a bad, dirty campaign. And if we have any Region 15 folks in here, I'd urge you to support her. If you have any questions about her, I can answer them. She's a progressive candidate, and I ran with her on my slate, and we worked hard to get our spot. You know, we fought hard. We fought very, very hard to win our spots as delegates, and she, you know, worked very hard too. So she just didn't, you know, hang on for the ride. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Paul.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And you know, I can bring up with your statement there, your advocacy, Robert's Rules of Order again. In our Region 15 meeting, Primo Castro ran it. the most recent one, right? In which we heard from candidates and for chair, right? And for regional director, himself and Cindy Duran. But he did not inform Cindy of the opportunity ahead of time. And then during the meeting, I called a point of order on him because he attempted to cut off questions for himself. In the interest of time, he only scheduled the meeting for 1 hour. Nowhere near enough time, right? We went for, I think, at least 2 hours. And so that was his excuse for speeding things along, including questioning of candidates, including himself. He says, we only have time for a couple questions for the candidates that had appeared, right, for statewide officer positions. But at least 2 got asked, right? But for himself, a regional director, he says, we're really running short on time, just time for 1 question. Well, I raised a point of order and I said, you already set the precedent here of 2 questions. You can't eliminate questions for yourself in your own race. Like, well, that's a complete conflict of interest. And instead of honoring the point of order or turning it over to Unique Wilson, who was there representing CADEM, actually, because his ruling on a point of order involving himself, right? He says, thank you for your comment, and then he moves on. Instead of saying point well taken or point not well taken or whatever. And
what was awful about that scenario is that they both don't know Robert's rules, and so how could they properly rule? Right, but I know nothing myself, but
decency would dictate that he'd know, like, yeah, I don't think I should be ruling to eliminate questions for myself, and then not entertaining a motion to allow for just 1 more question, right? So then he moves on, and I keep saying point of order, like you can't do that in the chat box. And then Unique Wilson finally says, actually, there is a point of order still on the floor, which I had been saying in the chat box. And then we put it up to a vote to the body. Do you want to allow for 1 additional question to keep it fair, right? 2 for the statewide candidates and 2 for the regional director candidates. And it was a unanimous vote, right? Saying allow a 2nd question, Primo Castro. You can't eliminate questions for yourself. So yeah, at 2 questions, it was still too few, but at least the 2nd one got asked, much to his chagrin. And it was a softball question, if I remember it correctly, that 2nd one, but still, I mean, it deserved to be heard and asked and answered. So,
well, it wasn't properly answered by Cindy because she wasn't prepared at all. She's a commute from work. Had she known, she would have planned properly. And so someone had to speak, for her, which was unfortunate.
Thank you for saying that. That's right. She, poor thing, had her battery die. She was calling in from her car, hadn't known she'd be able to speak. Yeah, I mean, but these are the kinds of games that the establishment plays that they don't always have to raise their voice. They can kill you with calmness and just rules violations that a lot of people don't notice or see until someone raises their hand and says, whoa, wait a sec. That's completely improper. And that's what I try to do at LACDP meetings, but I'm accused by some of being disruptive and interrupting. But as I say, these are interrupting motions. Robert's Rules allows for interrupting motions. And things would be completely non-disruptive, completely nice and easy for the dictator if nobody complains about what the dictator is doing. So yeah, we have to speak up, we have to interrupt, we have to quote unquote disrupt to get these people's attention, to get the thing back on track. I've also been accused of taking things off track, but what I keep saying is, no, I'm trying to get them back on track. I'm trying to get LACDP, along with my fellow rabble rousers, to get it back on track, following Robert's Rules of Order, following small d democratic principles, rules, bylaws, and just basic decency. right? Like just and you would think common sense ethics, but these people, they have all these conflicts of interest. They you know, do not follow a personal code of ethics. Apparently, I should note we do not have a code of ethics in LACDP. We have a code of conduct, right? The tone police and civility control agents, they including at that Region 15 meeting that we're talking about, Stephanie, at the start of the meeting, right? Unique Wilson put it in the chat. Primo Castro said it later in the meeting. This code of conduct, right? The behavior policy, but the behavior policy, the code of conduct, state level and local level, is really focused on prohibited classes, right? Prohibited discrimination against protected classes and sexual harassment. There are some things that allow for other forms of harassment, right? I could get into another case. Maybe I will just very briefly. Monica Madrid has gone public in this contested chair's race with how horribly she was treated at the CODEM offices, and how she was berated, yelled at, screamed at, but was told then by the CODEM HR officer that the code of conduct only addresses, right, prohibited discrimination against protected classes and sexual harassment, right? But you know, as I publicly on Facebook was saying to Monica, but there are some other provisions in this that would allow for the prevention of yelling and screaming at a person, right, and forming a hostile work environment, which is what Monica was subjected to. But you know, as she said, she was told, oh no, she didn't have a claim because it didn't actually violate the code of conduct. That these people like Primo Castro, Mark Gonzalez, and others try to use as like an intimidation tactic to get us to quote unquote behave better, to not criticize them, to not complain about their violations of rules and bylaws and democratic principles, small d and capital D, and just basic decency. So, you know, as I said to Monica publicly on Facebook, like, you know, complaining about bullying and abuse is not bullying and abuse, right? Complaining about specific people who are the bullies and abusers is not bullying and abusing them. It is, you know, resisting that bullying and abuse. It is speaking out about it. That is what we should be doing to stop it, right? Bullying and abuse should not be tolerated, including the removal of members secretly or quietly as in February, or openly and brazenly as in March. It's just wrong. So thank you for bringing up our connection with the state party, because yeah, I mean, all of us, I think, who wanted to, of course, as LACDP members, elected or alternate, to become state delegates, are state delegates. And so we are plugged into that system too, even though Friday Night Forums are mostly focused on LACDP business, but we are state delegates too, as county delegates. So yeah, thank you, Stephanie, for that. And 9:19 now, I should, I think, wrap for now with our review of the last meeting, unless there was anything else that anyone else wanted to note before we just take a quick brief preview of the upcoming meeting. There is at least one issue I do want to bring up there. So anybody else want to speak to anything else that about the last meeting? As I just make sure I covered all my bases. We really went in depth this meeting here tonight of the last meeting. So, okay, seeing no hands, and I can't see you on Facebook, obviously, or if you're watching this at a later date on YouTube, or on Facebook, but let's take a look at the upcoming meeting. Yeah, let me just double check something here. Oh, I did want to say that one of the things that they are doing a lot of, right, at LACDP meetings is accidentally or purposefully bypassing discussion on items. when things are put up for a vote or motions are made, there has to be a discussion. Almost always. There are exceptions, but they often do them not related to motions that do allow for debate, that do allow for discussion. And then sometimes they apologize after the fact, but it's part of a pattern, right? A practice where they're trying to steamroll and silence those double S's that I keep seeing. So, okay, I think we've covered those points. So let's take a look real quick at the next meeting. That is going over here. Let's go to, okay, so here's the agenda for the next meeting. Oh wait, share the screen, share screen. Okay, so let's bring this up. We have the agenda, and what I wanted to point out here real quick is guest speaker. As you can see, the guest speaker being given 20 whole minutes is none other than LA City Council member Kevin De Leon.
Oh, no.
And again, as you can see, agenda item 12, new business, once again, relegated to a mere 2 minutes. New business, right? Typically it could go on theoretically for hours. But Gonzalez does not want surprises, does not want new business really to be heard, and wants to just refer it to appropriate committees, and not address it or put it up to a vote for the body before he can kill it in committee, or change it, or have his appointees, right? All of whom he appoints, or virtually all of them. So
when is this meeting?
I'm sorry, what?
When is this meeting? I haven't received anything.
Second Tuesday of the month is our typical meeting date, Tuesday, April 13th at 7 p.m. And as that thing says, right? Oh boy, if you're not in by 6:45, you're screwed. And as observers should use a separate link. As I have said, that link though becomes inoperative after the meeting ends on YouTube, and nobody can see the meeting afterwards, which is not good practice if you believe in openness, transparency, and accountability in the Democratic Party, or just in politics generally. But again, so guest speaker, LA Council member Kevin De Leon being given 20 minutes. Again, these time frames were not previously put on minutes until this year that I know of, and until later in this year when Mark Gonzalez started trying to limit, especially new business. And I want to bring up, Kevin De Leon, because of what I found on Cal Access. Let's go over there. Right. No, that's not the right one. Democrats for a New Generation. Okay. That is Mark Gonzalez's personal PAC. And I brought this up earlier in the meeting, that I also discovered Elizabeth Hennis was also on his payroll, as you can see there. Right, so on May 19th, 2020, he paid Drexel Hurd as a campaign consultant for $500, in the amount of $500, while he was running for re-election to be chair of LACDP. He claims, and Drexel claims, it was not for his re-election campaign, that Drexel was overseen also as executive director, but they aren't saying what it actually was for. And then I was surprised to see September 24, 2020, he also is paying Elizabeth Hennis now in the amount also of $500 for campaign paraphernalia / miscellaneous. I don't know what that is referring to, but she too is an employee of LACDP under his direct supervision. Not good, in my view, to have that conflict of interest existing between those who work for LACDP and then are working for the chair on the side. But I wanted to show his contributions made. Okay, let's go into the amount. Who's
Democrats for a new.
PAC, Democrats for a New Generation, really giving money to? Oh, this is just in the latest quarter, pardon me. I need to go back to expenditures. Expenditures made. Okay, amount. Look at, oops, no. This was, darn it. Oh, wait, no, it was contributions received. Pardon me. Contributions received, amount. Take a look at who loves him a lot. Kevin De Leon, $3,000, just like his boss, Miguel Santiago, loves him a lot, $3,000 there, and Maria Elena Durazo, $3,000 there. So I guess the message maybe is it that if you give $3,000 to Mark Gonzalez, he'll let you have 20 minutes at an LACDP meeting. The other person that I did notice here on his contributors, Rick Tuttle has given him $450 this last year, but even Rick Tuttle didn't get called on at the end of the meeting when Rick Tuttle was trying to ask about my removal. So I guess it depends on not only who you are and how much you give, but what you want to ask or say. So I don't know. It's kind of strange, but there's only 3 people that gave $3,000 to Mark Gonzalez, and one of them is being given 20 minutes to guest speak at the upcoming LACDP meeting. So there you go. Get your wallet ready, I guess, if you want to speak. It might help to get a speaking slot.
I'll never give him a penny.
So yeah, that is a look at the upcoming meeting. Oh, I didn't want to actually stop screen share. If anybody else wanted to, go over, let's, where was it? Rats, where was the agenda? There.
I raised my hand, sorry. Are we raising hands here?
Can you send me that poll? I didn't get it.
I can't always see folks raising their hands, but Dennis, if you could help out. Linda, were you trying to, say something?
Yeah, I haven't received notice, and I heard Linda Paris say also that. Have you received notice of the meeting, Linda?
No, I haven't.
No.
Well,
how did you send it this time? Can you tell us who sent it? Is it sent by LACDP?
Yeah, it was
Gonzalez or Drexel Hurd or?
What I do to try when I have to go dig through to find it, what I do in my search function of my Gmail address is I type lacdp.org, and so any email from that extension comes up. And what I can do is share on screen here. Wait, let's go do that. And I'll show you the email, and I'll show you when it was sent, so you can also check it by day. But if you go type in lacdp.org, go over to, the meeting notice came March 24th. Now there has not been a reminder email since. Let me again share screen.
March 24th?
March 24th. I'm with you, Linda. I didn't get anything.
Me neither.
So I put up on the screen. So as you can see, lacdp.org is I typed into my Gmail search function, right?
So I did that, the same thing, but I didn't get anything come up.
Now, if you see, it says meeting notice, April 13th, March 24th is the one that is this one. It came at 3:51 to me, at least.
Oh, I think I have it. Wednesday, April 7th. Is that, no, that's the resolutions meeting. No, that's not right.
And so this is the one that, again, only one has been sent so far. They usually will send out a reminder right around this time in the day
April 13.
up to it. But that is the only one thus far for the April 13th meeting that I have seen, or that I see on my screen that I've received for April 13, 2021. And again, that was sent at 3:51 Wednesday, March 24th. At least to me. Now the timestamp may be different on some people, but they would have sent it out to everyone around that time. Sometimes the minutes may change because it can take some time, or they may vary it to avoid spam filters. But it should have gone out that Wednesday afternoon, March 24th. Are you finding it now, Linda, or either Linda?
No, no, I need to look for it.
Okay, Linda, yeah, you're saying you need to go. Good night. Yeah, Dennis, yeah, if you would send that to both Lindas, actually, Linda Bassett and Linda Perez.
Thank you.
That would be great.
I need their email addresses, or I need Linda Perez's email address.
Here, maybe I can just do it right now.
Yeah, I don't have
I'll forward
it
it.
at all.
Let me put it in the chat.
A million different ways.
Oops, where was I here?
It's bizarre.
Okay.
So Kevin De Leon has a resolution that will be coming forward on at our meeting. I wonder if that's why he's going to be allowed there to talk.
Yeah, maybe, but again, it's just very interesting that wow, he gave $3,000 and now gets a primo speaking slot. So I'm sure there's no quid pro quo, right?
I would be in favor of saying no to this. No, he shouldn't be given. Why should he be given 20 minutes? What the heck? What's he got to say?
This guy gets money from the developer.
Free speaking time, or
He's
maybe
a crook. I don't know why we are.
What's he running for now? Governor, mayor?
I know. He's always jumping, huh? See what he gets.
Mayor.
Mayor?
Maybe running for
mayor.
Mayor? I don't know.
Oh my God.
No idea. I'm just saying it's very odd.
Folks are saying, if you want to see though the cesspool of corporate donations in politics, look at Kevin De Leon's donations on Kyle Access sometime.
Oh, really?
Officially running for 2026 lieutenant governor, and if you, I searched through some of them, it starts getting pretty nauseating and disturbing. You see all the big corporate interests in California donating to Kevin De Leon for lieutenant governor 2026. Again, speaking of future runs of his, what often people will do, like Mr. De Leon, is announce for a future race to keep fundraising, even if they don't necessarily intend to carry that out years and years into the future. But yeah, he has set up a PAC for himself for 2026 lieutenant governor, and he's collecting from all the bad actors, all the corporate corrupt entities. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting for a person who styles himself as a progressive.
Right.
So yeah, but we can take a look at that maybe at the next meeting when we review Kevin De Leon's comments and see if he was saying any nice things about any of his corporate donors, because he has many corporate donors.
I'm disgusted. I have to go. Sorry. This is just too much.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, no. Yeah, we'll give you your leave of absence, Linda. Thank you for coming. Yeah. So all right.
I get nauseated with Kevin De Leon.
Okay, so we'll bring this back up.
Oh, he knows I hate really bad one time. So, okay. Good night, guys.
Okay, good night.
Bye,
and
later.
We're still on the live stream recording. Okay. Watching on Facebook or later on YouTube or Facebook. Yeah, so I think unless folks have anything else they want to bring up about the upcoming meeting or about the past meeting, I did a lot of the talking tonight. My apologies for really dominating the discussion tonight, but I did want to go over a lot of things, show you video. Maybe Mark Gonzalez showing long clips of him rivaled my speaking time tonight, at least somewhat. But yeah, he doesn't come to these meetings. He's always welcome and invited to show up. Of course, these meetings began with Mark Gonzalez trying to get him and other candidates for LACP officer positions to come and attend and do Q&A with us. He had agreed. He backed out at the last minute the day before and announced a private campaign event at the same time as our Q&A forum that we had expected him and his fellow slate mates to appear at. But Drexel, speaking on their behalf, said that they couldn't make it 3 minutes before the private event announcement went out the day before that Q&A meeting last summer. So we hosted the other candidates in a series of forums, Q&A forums, who are running against Mark Gonzalez and his slate. But Mark Gonzalez and his slate never sat for Q&A, as I believe all political candidates should. But of course, not all political candidates believe in small d democracy, even though they may be capital D Democrats. So yeah, that's how Friday Night Forums began. Okay, yeah, I think most people have called it a night. We're at 9:37. Unless the few remaining folks in the room want to bring up anything for the live stream recording now and for posterity, we can then, I guess, stop their live stream again, unless anybody wants to say anything before we do so. Going once, going twice. Then thank you all for coming tonight. Those of you who did, and those of you who will watch later. I'm doing these to keep trying to get us knowing about, hearing about, talking about what's going on within the LA County Democratic Party and its County Central Committee, looking at the issues of the day, as it were, and the previous meeting, doing a look ahead to the next meeting. We didn't do a whole lot of the next meeting tonight. But I did want to bring up the Kevin De Leon issue. So yeah, I hope you'll join us and keep joining us and keep the conversation going so that, yeah, we can all be in the loop together and be on the same page, know what's going on and discuss what's going on. All right, so thank you again for coming. I'm Cole Padilla, your humble host, and I look forward to hosting another one of these next month, if not sooner. Usually these are once a month. Usually on the Friday before that second Tuesday of the month, to look ahead to the upcoming meeting and review the prior meeting. But we'll see if we have, occasionally we'll have special Friday night forums in between. And we do have a lot going on with CODEM. A lot of us are members. I don't know, part of me is tempted to have a Friday night forum for that ahead of the convention. But I'll let you all know if we do and announce it on Facebook. And we'll go from there. All right, so thank you, everybody. Good night for now, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, so Dennis, you can stop the live stream, and it's just the four.